Rest in peace to Afrika Bambaataa,
I wouldn't
hip hop
go that far.
pioneer, dying at the age of 67.
We're not putting.
well-
We're just doing the rest in. However,
Rest.
rest in. Whatever
rest.
you want to rest in
Yeah,
is what it
just rest.
is.
Well,
yeah,
That's
nah.
why there's been a lot of mixed reactions to the news of his passing.
Trigger warning, a legend has passed away. Once again, trigger warning, a legend has passed away. Hip-hop pioneer Afrika Bambaataa passes away at 67 years old. Now listen, this is going to be very controversial, and the reason I say it's going to be controversial because we know that surrounding his legacy is the situations between him and Hassan Campbell. Prayers go out to Hassan Campbell. You know what I'm saying? I hope he heals. But also prayers go out to Afrika Bambaataa's family. This is a hit in the hip hop community. I know that the comments will be controversial in this. Just keep in mind that people's families are always online and always looking. So try to be respectful. But Afrika Bambaataa was one of the pioneers of this whole thing that we call hip hop back in the day, and it cultivated what we know now as the industry.
So yeah, R.I.P. to Afrika Bambaataa, who passed away today, this week at 67 from cancer, complications from cancer, as TMZ reported. Now, of course, everybody knows with Afrika Bambaataa and the history related to him, there was a lot of controversy towards the end of his life. It was acknowledged by the Hip Hop Alliance. Actually, Curtis Blow released a statement that said, today we acknowledge the transition of a... No, he didn't say it like that. He said, today we acknowledge the transition of a foundational architect of hip-hop culture, Afrika Bambaataa. As the founder of the Universal Zulu Nation, Afrika Bambaataa helped shape the early identity of hip-hop as a global movement rooted in peace, unity, love, and having fun. And he also acknowledged at the same time, we recognize that his legacy is complex and has been the subject of serious conversations within our community. As an organization committed to truth, accountability, and the preservation of hip-hop culture, we believe it's important to hold space for all voices while continuing to uplift what empowers and protects the people. Ha ha! And that was Curtis Blow. So, yeah, this is just something that's been discussed this week because I know about the allegations that have been surrounding him, and there was pretty hardcore evidence. He was never brought forth to trial for any of his crimes. I don't know if there was any police reports filed or if this was all just alleged victims releasing their statements to the internet and people willing to listen.
I just want to take the time out to say rest in peace to the greatest child who ever walked this earth, Afrika Bambaataa. Before there was an Epstein list, there was an Afrika Bambaataa's Black Book. Before there was an R. Kelly, my mind is telling me no, but my body is telling me yeah. Yeah, before there was an R. Kelly, raised by Dr. York, one of the greatest that ever walked this earth.
Why you keep saying it like that?
Rest in peace to Afrika Bambaataa, the greatest child ever. Going live at 5.
Yeah, so Afrika Bambaataa passed away. If you don't know, other than being someone notable in hip-hop, Hassan Campbell has spoken openly about him being abused and molested as a child, and he accused this guy of being the guy to do it.
People have been saying it's a complicated legacy, and it's really not. This is a pioneer of hip-hop and a of children, allegedly. So I don't really think it's complicated.
I don't know. Based on how the comments been and based off with other legendary hip-hop pioneers, it ain't alleged. They saying he did it.
What we heard now from Hassan Campbell, B. Stinger, was it known at the time? Honestly,
yeah.
Really?
I went to James Monroe High School. I just told y'all that. That's like next to Bronx River, the projects. It was always rumored. Yeah, but the rumors was that he was gay. That was the rumors. And then somebody came and started talking about the other stuff. And it wasn't until I was in Bronx River one day with my man Brian. They said some real crude shit. And I was like, they from there. They from him. And that's what it made me go, oh, there might be some validity to this, you know?
You know what I'm saying? Well, they saying he did it.
We honor what he did for hip-hop, but we condemn what he did. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And this is another case where you have to separate the man from the music. This is another case, and like I said,
Currently doing it now. President.
he can rest in whatever P you want to put on it. You see what I'm saying? But you know, we definitely condemn that part. And did hip hop really like suffer a huge blow?
His family did.
Some of these boys became men and they've told their stories. And I absolutely believe those stories. Because one thing is, Afrika Bambaataa, at least to my knowledge, have never denied some of the most critical claims. He never denied. And that's one of those things, when you are a man, hell, even if you're a woman, but if you're a man specifically, that's something you do not want on your record, and you take that seriously. You take those type of allegations seriously. Somebody accuse you of something like that, you got to fight. You got to fight. You got to fight with everything you got. You got to throw everything at them. Throw everything at them, their lawyers, their spouses, kids, everybody gonna get it. Everybody get it for an accusation like that.
Did hip hop necessarily suffer a big blow?
I feel like what he did for the culture was already established before these allegations. So everything that he represented was in the early 80s. And I feel like since the early 80s, he's been nothing more than kind of a figurehead of hip hop. Musically, no. All I know about Afrika Bambaataa is Planet Rock and the Zulu Nation. I know he was like a gang leader who turned his gang into the Zulu Nation. So I know the history of him, but all of his contributions to hip hop were in the 70s and early 80s. And outside of that, outside of Planet Rock, I can't honestly name an Afrika Bambaataa song.
Like
Can
I
you?
said.
Can anybody name one besides Planet Rock?
No. Like I say, we honor what he did for hip hop, but we definitely condemn what he did outside.
I mean,
of
I
music.
agree.
And as recently as 2 years ago, with an individual by the name of Hassan Campbell. Now, Hassan Campbell had been one of the loudest advocates that I've seen since the story broke of basically exposing Afrika Bambaataa and what he considered his little black book. The allegations are... There is no celebrating of Afrika Bambaataa if you just spend 5 minutes watching his recounts of his encounters with Afrika Bambaataa. There is no celebration of his legacy if you believe the victims. That's all I'll say.
But I mean, this isn't a complex thing. Lots of people who were founding pioneers of music weren't necessarily the greatest of all people.
Oh shit, or just people who done great things. Some of them have bad.
I know, like Elvis.
They got a complex history along with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a legacy of lots of people who contributed great things to society, not necessarily being the greatest of people. So, I don't think it's too much out of line to acknowledge both sides of who he is and what he did. You can acknowledge that he contributed to hip-hop while still acknowledging that his personal life was pretty disgusting and sick. So I don't really understand.
Heinous, okay.
That was too much.
Rap pioneer Afrika Bambaataa died yesterday, and it's rest in hell for him. Because according to Rolling Stone, 12 men accused him of abusing them. Everybody ain't lying, okay? Now, as you can see here, he faced multiple allegations beginning in 2016. He, of course, denied it. And in 2025, he lost a civil case from someone. He did not show up for court. But basically, this man has been being accused of this stuff for years.
And so, I mean, I don't mind putting a side note next to what Afrika Bambaataa did, and remembering that as well as what he contributed positively, because I feel like both parts played a part in his legacy. I mean, the last decade of his life, he pretty much had to hide, I guess you could say, because these were charges that could have possibly been brought forth. So yeah, it's a real stain on his legacy, and we just got to deal with it. But the positive thing is, outside from Planet Rock and the Zulu Nation, we don't really know too much of what he did. He's one of them dudes that you got to be 50 and over and actually in the Bronx to really understand the role that Africa,
to be able to tell the story accurately.
Yeah. You understand? When I was 14 years old, I was part of Zulu Nation. And I was 14 years old when I was down with it. And I used to be part of chapter 24. And my head Shaka Zulu, or the head Zulu leader of that chapter, was named Phrase.
I was born in the 80s and I wasn't in New York growing up, so I don't really know how deep his influence runs and what he did. So, you know, just as a fan of hip hop, you know, aside from playing a rock and being a pioneer, I don't really know what other parts he played other than just being a figurehead. So we're going to give a shout out to R.I.P. to Afrika Bambaataa, and we're going to recognize him as a hip hop pioneer, but also as somebody who harmed children. So it's not complicated. Just rest in peace, and whatever happens, happens. Yeah, just rest. Yeah,
rest in whatever you want the P to be. Like I said.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at that. So